Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Denver Bronco Roundup podcast. Of course, we're brought to you by Rocky Mountain Sports Network and sponsored by the amazing Morgan Trinkets. We'll talk about them more later. But man, first off, before I even start anything, I just want to say one thing. I got some apology, or just one thing. So it's only I got some apologies. We were thinking about going live Tuesday. We didn't end up going live on Tuesday. That was all on me. And from all the posse to even my co-hosts that join us, the horsemen themselves, I apologize, man. Things went sideways that day, and I didn't really get in contact with very many people, and I apologize. So from Albert to Jody to Trevor to all you in the posse, sorry we didn't have a Christmas Eve show. But we're back, man. It's an after Christmas special. We're talking Denver Broncos versus the Cincinnati Bengals. Of course, my name is Keith Brugman, but I'm not here alone, man. We're rocking it old school, like the first episode ever, man. Me and Jody, the Judge Moncrief, man. OG in the house. How you doing, Jody?
What's up, everyone? Ready to clinch a playoff spot tomorrow and get back in the playoffs for the first time since 2015.
Ready. We'll talk about that, man. I'm ready. I know Broncos country's ready. Hopefully the Denver Broncos are ready. Hopefully the coaches are ready, right, Jody? And we're going to see exactly how this plays out come Sunday. I put it out there in our ad. I put it out there on the bottom line ticker down below. So if you need a refresher, go to the bottom line ticker. Today's the final day. Today's the final day to get entered to win one PS2 autographed jersey brought to you by, or at least helped brought to you by Bighorn Autographs, man. Check out Bighorn Autographs. I just heard they got a little bit of a Nick Benito signing, as a matter of fact, and that should be hitting their shop. I wonder if that'll be popular with anybody. Anyway, we're giving away this PS2 jersey. There's only a couple of things you need to do. RMSN wins in the comment. Follow us either on Facebook if you're tuning in there, or on YouTube if you're tuning in there. If you're following, you put that in, you get an entry. If for every 100 stars that you drop within an episode, and we've been tallying these along, there's the last episode. Stars are available over on Facebook. If you're over there, you drop 100 stars, that's 3 entries. So we're tallying all that up. I got all my lists over here. RMSN wins. We're giving away a PS2 signed jersey. Can't wait to do it. It'll be on the next episode. Might not be our post-game episode that we'll have on Saturday. It'll probably be our Tuesday episode that we'll be talking a little bit more about this Denver Broncos win. But I got to get into these comments here, but really quick, Jody, I got to jump in. Just recognize the posse. They're jumping in there. They're hot. Paul came in on YouTube. He says, I know Joe Burrow is really good, but he has taken the second most sacks of all QBs. That is going to be a banged-up Bengals by the end. Jody, let's kick it off, man. And this might be a great way to do it. I know that you got a lot to talk about on the offensive side, but maybe we kick it off over here on the defensive side. We'll say a few more hellos in here, but what are your thoughts, man, about Joe Burrow taking advantage of the sacks that he's been giving up, or his Bengals team has been giving up in front of him as well? Can the Denver Broncos go in there and be part of that? Go out there and make him struggle. Go out there and get sacks. Go out there and dictate the game on defense. We haven't necessarily seen that, especially when it came to the second half of the game we just got done watching from this Denver Broncos team.
I definitely think they can, and I think it starts with getting a healthy Riley Moss back, or at least that's what everyone's hoping. If that's how one guy can be so important to the defense, but he changes everything. We're not a good zone defense that plays zone very well,
Not at all.
And it exploits holes on this D, especially with Alex Singleton being out, then middle linebackers. So he's a key piece getting back, and I think that'll allow VJ to get back to playing man, get aggressive, trust your corners. You put Pat Surtain on Jamar Chase, and you put Riley Moss on T. Higgins, and you do what's made you a top 5 defense all year. Get back to that. I think the 10-day rest is going to be good for some guys. Zach Allen, I mean, since his ankle injury, just hasn't looked the same. So hopefully the rest will, get him healthy. He's not on the injury report at all. I mean, Denver's as healthy as they can be, minus Alex Singleton. So I think this is a game where you can get right. Like you said, Joe Burrows takes a lot of sacks. He is getting Orlando Brown back at left tackle, but you have elite pass rushers, and I think you can exploit their offensive line.
It was Paul that brought it up, that it said that, hey, we had all those sacks that were, have been given up by Joe Burrow. But I appreciate you trying to give me a little bit of credit, Jody. But I'm going to push back a little bit. I'm going to push back with something I saw PS2 say in his, presser when he took the podium there. He said, one of the things that he saw with Joe Burrow is that he's a guy that, if you sit there and you cover him the exact same way, time after time, he'll just go ahead and he's methodical. He can pick you apart. If he just sees the exact same coverage, he knows where to go. To me, that told me that they'll have to disguise some zone in there. I know that no one wants to hear that, but does that have to be a part of the game plan? And your thoughts going up against, a quarterback at the caliber of one Joe Burrow?
I think a lot of what Joe Burrow likes to do is he holds the ball a little bit longer to allow Higgins and Chase to, he'll pass up the little short routes for something big, and that's where he's getting a lot of yards. If Pat Surtain and Riley Moss can lock them down, just that extra second, that's an extra second of Benito and Cooper and the rest of everyone else, coming at Burrows. He can move, but he's not a Josh Allen. He's not a Bo Nix type runner, and he wants to sit in the pocket. So that's where I think those two guys, especially PS2 and Moss, locking down those two receivers and making Joe either throw those little check downs or hold the ball a little bit longer will put him in, prime position to get sacks.
Prime position to make sure that we're, limiting yards and hopefully rallying to those tackles, to those check downs, and keeping it to a minimum. I like your thought. I like your idea, but I have to agree with what PS2 did say. I think in what I've seen from a Joe Burrow, doesn't matter if you're the one of the best defenses, if you just lock up man-to-man or if you just play zone, he's going to find ways to absolutely eat you alive. You have to mix it up sometimes. You're going to have to do it. And maybe that zone comes more with some blitz packages as well in order to try to, again, maybe protect that back end a little bit more, because we know we're not a zone defense. So those are things that I'll be looking for in order to maybe take advantage and get those sacks as well, man, because you're right. They are prime. They are not going to be the most formidable offensive front that you've went up against. And this defense, especially coming off of last week, where I thought we had more opportunities maybe to eat in that game, get some sacks, get more pressures. It didn't really come. Like you had mentioned, Jody, we didn't see Zach Allen really step up and get into the backfield. We didn't see Nick Bonito go off like a whole lot of people were hoping for in this last game. So, this is a game where with this offensive line, the way that they play, maybe some, some blitzing in those zone packages that we'll have to mix in from time to time, again, hopefully opportunities to go out there and eat and get to one Joe Burrow and really disturb the game. I just want to say hello to a few more people, man. I'll let you jump in if you have any more thoughts on that as well, man, because Scott came in over here as well. Of course, we had Paul, like I said. Pearl's checking in, and Pearl's been kicked off Facebook, but she's all set up with a YouTube account, so we're all set to go there. Ernie Mays, our good friend, coming in. He's saying, "Go Broncos country only. Go Bo Nix for 6. We win tomorrow and go 10-6-0." I like the positivity, Ernie, and hopefully that's all going to come true, man. We'll continue to break down this game. I got to switch over in between accounts, and this is where Michael Ronquillo's coming in. He might be dropping stars because he's always pretty good about that. But he's saying, "Good evening, Keith and Jody, and go Bo Broncos, orange and blue hearts." giving us that Mile High salute. And man, talk about OGs, talk about originals, Jody. We kicked off the show talking about how this is an OG show. Mr. Michael Ronquillo being here, that just plays right into it, man. Guy that's been with us for a long, long time. Thank you, Michael. Rodney Garcia over on YouTube saying, good evening, Keith and Jody. I'm worried about VJ and the defense. We need to get back to that Wade Phillips type of defense. Be physical and make takeaways, man. Wade Phillips, man, that's a defense I haven't referred back to in my memory bank in quite some time. I just got done talking about getting to Joe Burrow. We got Rodney talking about getting back to a Wade Phillips style of defense. We've been talking a little bit of defense. I'll let you take the mic again, and I'll scroll through these comments. Jody, again, any more thoughts on this defense and how we play this game? You already talked about some key matchups up front. Anything else that we need to talk about? Or key matchups in the wide receiver and secondary, I'm sorry.
I think it really comes down to that. How does PS2 lock up Jamar Chase? The last time they played, which 2021, I think that's the year the Bengals went to the Super Bowl. He locked Jamar Chase down, one catch for 5 yards. And you got Riley Moss. T. Higgins. This is a game where I hope Denver country sees that he's not an elite number one wide receiver, and Riley Moss shuts him down as well. And force Joe Burrows to go to someone else besides those two guys. That's where he throws the ball most of the time. Force him to do something he doesn't want to do. Put pressure on their tackles. Orlando Brown's supposed to be back, but I don't know how healthy he's going to be. Bengals don't run the ball very well, or even attempt to. They're about like Denver. They don't care to run the ball. Yeah. So that's where it starts. If those two guys can hold down, if those two guys can lock those two wide receivers up, eventually your elite pass rushers will get home, and I think that right there is where it'll start on this defense.
Yeah, I think it's where it has to start, right, man? You're talking about one of the most dynamic wide receivers, one of the most prolific quarterbacks right now in the league, and you're talking about probably one of the most coveted wide receivers in the offseason if it gets to that point. When you have that type of combination, and even Sean Payton talked about it, especially being able to go from LSU all the way into the pros and have that guy at your side made me think about maybe what he was trying to do with one Troy Franklin and Bo Nix. Again, having that relationship and having a arguably maybe one of the top receivers, if not the top receiver in the league. And again, one Joe Burrow, that's gotta be a focus, especially like you said, Jody, this team, I don't know if I necessarily like to compare it because it's maybe too brutally honest, but the comparison to the Broncos and the way they try to run the ball, yeah, it's nothing pretty. It's nothing that they attempt to do. And if you look at the amount of yards that Joe Burrow's put up and the amount of attempts he has per game, well, it's up there with Bo Nix. Jody, we'll talk about that maybe in the second half. I do got to recognize that when Michael came in and dropped in and said hello to us and gave us those Mile High salutes, orange and blue stars, he dropped 20 stars, but then he came right back in and dropped another 980 stars, Jody, to get him to 1,000 stars. Wow. Yeah, clap it up right there, man. Michael, appreciate you, man. We're tallying for that giveaway, that PS2 giveaway. So, man, another 1,000 stars. Again, 3 entries for every 100. Michael, thank you so much for the support, and good luck in your entries. Also, Rodney Garcia came over there on YouTube, making sure that he was entered. He said RMS wins, gave it's the orange and blue as well, man. Just want to go through and make sure I'm not missing anybody. Jeremy Watson says he's going to struggle. 3 picks we will get from him. Do you think it'll be sacks, or do you think it'll be interceptions? Because we're kind of talking about the same thing here, Jody, whether we're getting pressure from the front that could possibly throw him off down deep, leading to interceptions with a Moss and a PS2 and a PJ Locke hunting back there and and you name it. It seems like our secondary are hunters when it comes to that as of lately. Or is it going to be that front line that's going to get to him? If you, in your opinion, if you had to go over under sacks versus interceptions, where would you put this?
I think it'll be sacks early. He's going to want to be smart with the ball and not force anything. If Denver can get out to a lead and make them more dimensional than they already are, then I think he will try to force the ball, and that's where you can get INTs on him, especially if PS2 and Moss McLaughlin are all three, locking down their wide receivers. He's going to have to force the ball somewhere.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But I think Rodney's bringing up a good point that we haven't hit yet, man. He's over there on YouTube. Says Sternad needs to have a better performance. After last week's game, he struggled, and the Chargers tight end Stone Smart went off on us. Sternad did not have his best game all the way around. It doesn't matter if we're talking stopping the run, being a great blitzer when called upon, covering on the back end. We haven't talked about the linebackers, the inside linebackers, Jody. What type of pressure are we going to see there? And do you think we have it within us to cover what the Bengals are going to put on the field?
I do think it is the weak link of this defense. Both linebackers, they're not great in coverage. They're pretty good against the run, but not great in coverage. It's just something Denver's going to have to try to mask as good as possible with Singleton out. They don't really have a lot of depth there. I don't know how up to speed yet Drew Sanders is. So, yeah, I think it's just kind of a Band-Aid at this point there. Do what you can. And, last week was, like they said, was probably the worst I've seen of Justin Sternad all year. But he was a backup for a reason. And teams are, we're 16 weeks into the season. Teams are watching film and they're figuring out where Denver's weak links are, and they're starting to go after him. Hopefully the 10-day layoff was something VJ and this whole coaching staff worked on, fixing some of those problems.
Yeah. One of the things when I was thinking about last week's game and even maybe watching it a little bit live, as much as our safeties are relied upon, even in the run game, coming up on coverage, I would love to see a little bit tighter coverage. I'd love to see a little bit tighter handoff when we end up playing a zone between those linebackers and those safeties. It's one of the places I've just seen, like you said, a little bit extra time, a little bit time to work on a few things. These are the type of things that I want to see. I want to see that linebacker, if he needs to drop with that wide receiver, that tight end, that crosser a little bit further. And that pickups needs to be a little bit tighter on the other end, even if that leaves your back end open as far as Riley Moss and PS2 having to lock down their guys with no safety help behind. It's just something that we need to – I think that's the adjustment that I would really like to see, Jody. I think that's what would help us in this matchup, just to make sure, like you said, it's good. I think it's a 2 wide receiver type of race in this offense, but you can't rule out the checkdowns. And quite honestly, as much as I've seen it from this Denver Broncos defense, especially when it comes down to wheel route type of checkdowns, I mean, we got to make sure that we have it covered. We need to make sure that third option is taken care of if we're not getting to Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow is fantastic and stepping up through pressure, through the pocket, and still delivering downfield. That's the one thing I'm worried about here. There was a comment in here, I'll find it, that we need to contain Joe Burrow more than get after him. What are your thoughts on that? Contain or get after Joe Burrow as far as the coverage up front?
Both, and it was exposed last week. Justin Herbert on the 3rd and 10, run when they were deep in their territory, when he ran for that long one close to the end zone. The outside linebackers, they just crashed in and left it wide open. They've got to pressure more sound and stay in their gaps, because Joe Burrow's, he's still, excuse me, good enough that he can run and do what Herbert did. So we can't allow that. Those were gaping holes caused by Cooper and Benito just crashing in.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to start up front. I think you need to definitely make sure you're getting. I would say you need to get after him. I'm not worried about gap integrity. Every time we worry about gap integrity, I feel like we go back to last year's defense. And last year's defense, as far as pressure, was nothing. This defense doesn't produce like it does if this defensive line isn't getting after the quarterback, isn't it making him move off a spot? Even if it's a good quarterback that can maneuver the pocket, that can throw on the run, make him do it. Don't let him. Joe Burrow standing in the pocket, delivering downfield, and just waiting for something to happen and open up is scarier to me than Joe Burrow having to step up and throw on the run. I take the latter every single day of the week. I got to say hello to a couple of good friends. Well, actually, I think I missed this one first, or maybe it was it Kurt Valente that came in first? If not, it was Kenny Kirkpatrick, and I'll get to him in a second. He says, "What's up, boys? Huge game tomorrow. Let's get this W, postseason spot. Let's go." If you don't know, Kurt Valente is one animated fellow with a Broncos podcast all his own, right over on the K&K Sports Show. They go on Wednesday, so hey, you can watch them right in between us. We go live every Tuesday, every Friday, and every post game. So right there on Wednesday, perfect. Check out the K&K Sports Show. They have a ton of shows. And Mr. Kenny Kirkpatrick, the other half, saying good evening, everyone, and happy holidays to the GOATs of Denver Broncos podcast, DBR. Let's go. Thank you very much, Kenny. So good to see you, man. And I want to throw this one out at you. Daniel Miller is coming in and always somewhat critical of the coaching. We'll take the first half of this. We'll save the second half for the next half of this show, buddy. But he says, should this be a make or break game for VJ? Now, VJ has been anywhere from a head coaching candidate to, well, drawing the ire of a lot of people in Broncos country with some first half or second half or collapses or, big points put up, against this Denver Broncos defense from time to time. Jody, where do you think one Mr. Vance Joseph sits, in the eyes of the Denver Broncos, in the eyes of the NFL and maybe higher aspirations? Does this game matter that much as far as where he continues to project or not project?
I don't think it's a make or break for him, being DC here next year. I never really thought that he was going to get serious consideration for head coaching jobs next year. A lot of the openings, I think, are going to go to offensive guys because of quarterbacks that were drafted high or will be drafted high that they want to develop or that are underperforming, like a Trevor Lawrence. I don't think he's on the hot seat with Peyton. I mean, Peyton brought him here, so I don't think he's a scapegoat for Peyton. I think just like the O, there's lack of depth, and a major part of that is you're still eating $53 million on Russ's deal. So when Riley Moss goes down, you turn to Levi Walls, who you've already released, and you're having to start a rookie, Chris Abrams-Drains, that was a 5th round pick for a reason. I think Peyton realizes that and knows that there are some depth issues. So where he's gotten him to this point so far is pretty incredible, in my opinion. But we're about to find out how important Riley Moss is. Is Riley Moss the true MVP of this defense? Because if that's what it is, then he's back, and we should be back to where we were at the beginning of the season. I would hate to think that one guy is that important, but that's when it really started to fall off. So we're going to find out. So
we're fixing to find out. We're fixing to find out. As one Gary Kubiak once said. But it is. I mean, I always said that position, and Riley Moss is kind of proven, at least in his absence, of being that guy that needed to be opposite PS2, that guy that needed to be able to step up. And when a guy's not going to be thrown at basically all game or almost all game because he's that stature, that's who PS2 is, then yeah, Riley Moss or whoever is on the other side needs to be pretty dang good. He's going to take a lot of targets. He's going to get a lot of looks. And so far, it's proven out when Riley Moss is on the field, we play better football. It's really looking that way. That's what we need, man. That is what we need this game.
And how hot can his seat really be? I mean, after last year, you give up 70 to the Dolphins, and the way it kind of imploded at the end, he brought BJ back. So, and I mean, it's been night and day from last year. I know that he was running some of Vic's stuff for the first year, and he's running his full system now. I don't think he's on the hot seat. I think Peyton knows just like his that there is some lack of depth there caused by whoever's problem you want to say, Denver for getting rid of Russ. And it is what it is.
Some draft picks that there are drafts that didn't go the way that you wanted to, and guys don't pan out.
And a lot of that will be, when $53 million gets added to the books and you have a full 7 rounds of draft picks now. I think a lot of things are going to change this offseason. So
yeah. I mean, I would rather be talking about how we had to trade away Greg Dulcich because he was so fantastic for a 3rd round pick. You know what I mean? Just to get some value back. There's things that could have made this, whole team better. Not to mention, moving on from Russ and $53 million in dead cap space, and we can go on and on.
But, and I think Peyton also knows he can help his D a lot too. Denver's they might even be the most 3 and out team, 3 and out in the NFL. That's something he can help. If he's going to dink and dunk and he wants to do that and control Knicks like he is, I mean, then do like you did the first 3 drives. You ran the ball. Those were pretty drives, and then you went away from it. You've got to, in my opinion, it's an ego thing. I'm going to stick it to everyone that didn't think Knicks was worthy of where we picked him, and I'm going to show it. You've shown it. It's done. Now run the ball. I don't think it's we can't. It's we choose not to, and that's a big difference, because when we choose to run the ball, look at the first 3 drives of the Chargers game.
You know what you did, Jody? You jumped into the second half before we got to the second half. We're going to be talking a lot about this offense and what needs to get done. I know you have a lot more to talk about it, what the coach needs to do, who he needs to be playing, who needs to be getting the ball, where the focus needs to be, man. I got to recognize a few more people, though. We got our good friend Patrick Wiltsey, who came in here. He dropped 100 stars. You know what that means? He's entered 3 entries into the contest for the Patrick Surtain PS2 signed jersey right there. And again, RMSN wins in the comments on either Facebook or YouTube, and following gets you at least 1 entry. You're entered without donating anything. But if you do give us 100 stars, then dang it, you're going to go ahead and you're going to get a few more entries, just like our good friend Phil McLaughlin. And I got to get to his, which is, oh my goodness. Phil McLaughlin was in here and he dropped, I'm just going to read it off to the side because once again, having issues trying to keep all caught up. He's saying, good evening, Keith and Judge. On vacation, we'll catch the show later. Happy holidays and Happy New Year. RMSN wins. And so he's all entered in again with additional entries. All you have to do, RMSN wins in the comments. Follow us either on Facebook or YouTube. We'll check that when we go ahead and start pulling our entries, and make sure that you're following to make sure you're an official winner. And so we'll go ahead and like, follow, share, subscribe. Also, great place that I can just start talking about our amazing sponsor who has taken care of us for way too long. It's Pearl, if you had noticed her over on YouTube a little bit earlier, and her fantastic company, Morgan Trinkets. Morgan Trinkets has been in the business of Southwest jewelry, Southwest pottery, and estate gold for over 34 years. I'm talking like titans of the industry right here, right? Once a nationwide company, now they're just in your backyard, northern Colorado, southern Wyoming, getting you all taken care of. I'm telling you what, man, Southwest jewelry, Southwest pottery, estate gold, 10, 14, 18 karat gold. If you're looking for silver, all their silver is sterling silver. You need to check them out over on Etsy. You type in Morgan Trinkets Co. That's Morgan Trinkets Co. over on Etsy, and you can start seeing everything that she has to offer. She's been having record-breaking shows as she's been touring around northern Colorado and southern Wyoming all throughout the summer and the winter, because the winter hasn't necessarily been that bad for us, I think, too. So fantastic. Check out Morgan Trinkets today and get yourself all taken care of. Southwest Jewelry, Southwest Pottery, estate gold at wholesale prices, and don't forget about that silver as well. We got to get into it, man. On the offensive side of things, man, I know that when we started breaking down this show, we started I asked for some thoughts and some feedback, and I don't know if I got anything defensively related. If you did, I can't recall it, man. You wanted to talk about this offense. I know that it really starts up front with head coach Sean Payton, what he needs to do. And in your opinion, I'll let you roll for a little bit here, Jody, as I roll through some comments, see who else in the posse is lighting it up. But that being said, who needs to get involved in this offense? You have some thoughts, man. Go ahead and run with the mic, my friend.
There's a bunch of people I think need to get involved. He needs to find that connection again with Cortland Sutton. It's kind of went away the last 3 games. He needs to find another receiver besides Sutton. But this all starts with Sean Payton. He writes run it on his play sheet. He needs to commit to the run. Bo Nix cannot be throwing the ball 40 plus times. I've been pounding the table all year for Audric Estime. I mean, he was close to 6 yards a carry, and then they just went away from him. I don't know what Sean Payton's doing. I mean, for example, the first drive, Blake Watson doesn't dress all year, and then he's in there in the first series getting carries. I'm a little confused on why he just is. It's just like he just is pulling from a hat, and whoever gets drawn is who's in there. Other than Javonte Williams, he has a trust with Javonte Williams when it comes to passing the football. And he is a great, blocker there. I don't think the other guys are as bad as everyone makes it out to be, but I've seen enough of Javonte Williams the last 3-4 games. He just doesn't have it. He's not hitting the hole. He's missing holes. It's almost like even he's afraid to make contact. You watch Estime, he will run into guys and is not afraid to hit people. He's spinning off of guys. The fumbling thing is in the past, in my opinion.
I think it is, bud.
I'm hoping maybe it rains a little more than what's called for, and he's forced to run the ball with someone like that. I don't want to see another 40-plus throwing game from Nix. The stats say that this is probably the game that Nix should be throwing 40-plus times. The Bengals D is not good. The worst pass defense in football. I just hope Peyton, after last week, I mean, he's heard it from enough. He heard it from enough of the media, how he got clowned on for having run it on his play sheet and then ran it 5 times the second half. There was a lot of things. And I think people inside, I think his coaching staff knows the same thing. You've got to run the ball. You don't have Drew Brees yet. You don't have a Patrick Mahomes. You don't have that yet. So you've got to run the ball. So that I hope that's where it starts for me is he's got to be balanced. Games where Nix was throwing 30 or maybe a little over 30 times a game, those were Nix's best games. Not these 40 some times passing the ball. That's not going to work. And it doesn't help your D because, like I said, you lead the NFL in 3-and-outs, and that's just more possessions that you give Joe Burrows.
Yeah, or more pressure on your defense to try to get a stop on the other end and a stop on the other end and a stop on the other end. You know what I mean? It's this defense, sometimes needs to be put into better position, and that comes from the coaching. Jody, I almost want to give you another apology because honestly, I was a big Javonte Williams fan. I still think this offensive line can improve when it comes to the running game. But I'll be honest, after watching this last game, and it wasn't Blake Watson or McLaughlin or Javonte Williams that impressed me the most. It was one Audric Estime, man. I'm telling you, not only, like you said, the ability to maybe go out there and hit a guy, drag guys, not be afraid of contact, but the thing that impressed me the most is he's a guy that, quite honestly, kind of reminds me of a build of Javonte. But my goodness, the change of direction, the speed, the cut that he has is nothing like I don't think I've ever seen from Javonte. Javonte looked for contact when he was first in the league. He was leading the league as far as week after week for a while, with yards after contact and dragging people. And we saw that. And since that injury, he doesn't have that ability. And he never had the ability to move like Audric Estime in the hole. He's a big guy that can move, man. Like I said, I didn't necessarily have the faith that Audric Estime could come in and be that guy. I always want guys to come in and perform like he did, but I'm absolutely right on track with you at this point. This guy needs to be a focus in our offensive running game. If we can have McLaughlin be that guy that, again, goes out there and is that third down back and that option type of guy, because I think even Audric Estime can step up to the challenge of the blocking needed in those passing situations as well. It's worth the risk from what I see him do in the running game. So hats off to you, man. I know that you've been pounding that drum for a long time, man. I just wanted to give you your props, your flowers there, man.
One thing I've heard the last couple of weeks, and it's been from a lot of former players, Sean Payton is not helping the run game or helping the running backs. He's not getting them in a rhythm. And when you play one, you run it 2 times and then you're out for 8 or 9 plays, and then you run it once. You're not getting a sweat. You're not getting in the feel of the game. You're not. And a lot of them have said that is a massive problem. You've got to get a feel for the game. You've got to get out there. You've got to hit people, and that's what gets you going. And he's not allowing his guys to get that, any of the running backs.
I agree, man. I was confused when Blake Watson was out there. We went post game, and honestly, my thought behind it, though, I really think that he went out there in the first half and he's like, oh, especially in that first drive and that first quarter, and he's like, you guys say that I don't run the ball. I'm going to put it on my thing, and we're going to run the ball, and I'm going to prove the fact that we can run the ball. And then once we were looking pretty good at halftime, he went, okay, now it's what I want to do. And I want to start winging it all around and throwing it all around and completely get away from the run game. And we saw the results, Jody. We saw the results. So this needs to be a dedicated effort from Sean Payton. Turn the page around so where you can see run the ball. Right. You know what I mean? Not that we can see it. You need to see it. And stay committed to it. And absolutely, man, I'm ready for that change. Audric Estime has 2 games to go out there, get his feet underneath him, and head into the playoffs. Why not do it?
And he would really help. That would really help Nix. It would take a lot of pressure off of him. It would do a lot to get the defense. They they've seen what Nick does well and what he doesn't do well now, and the Colts game is a perfect example. I mean, they just set back and dared him to throw the ball. They weren't worried that I have not really seen him take off and run. I mean, he scrambled for some yards, but he hadn't really ran like he did early in the year. And they know Denver's not going to run the football. So here's what Nix does well. If you can get it in, you can get it in. If not, we're going to be there. So a run game would, be something that the defense is probably not planning for and would open up a lot of things for Nix.
Yeah. Need to put this all together, Jody. We need to put it all together. More importantly, we need to get the win. And this is how we get the win. We get the win. We get the secured playoff spot. We don't have to worry anymore about the next week and what Kansas City is going to do and how we're going to win there. And if Miami's winning and if the Colts are winning and if the Bengals are going to win again. I don't want to worry about that, Jody. It doesn't need to be worried about. I'll tell you what, watching those pressers, I think it was Cortland Sutton that impressed me the most, man. Cortland Sutton is ready for this game. Cortland Sutton is locked in. He's ready to go. I want to get your thoughts here in a second about, outside the running game, how will we go ahead and balance that through the passing game? What needs to happen? Who's going to get the targets? Who needs to step up? Especially if this ends up getting into a shootout like the Bengals have made a lot of their games as of lately. But first, I want to get to the comments. Karen's coming in, came in quite a while ago, but she's also saying, why won't Sean bench Javonte? I don't get it. This is costing us wins. Karen, thank you so much for being here. I know you've dropped a few different comments, but that was definitely kind of right off of what we just got into. Kenny Kirkpatrick over there from the K&K Sports Show, supporting us, and I guess really supporting you, the posse. He's saying RMSN wins, Keith. If I may, he's going to put 2 entries in for Patrick Wiltsey, our good friend over there at Lion Coffee. Check out Lion Coffee if you're a fantastic Lion or coffee lover. Amazing stuff. And 2 for Michael Ronquillo, one of our good time supporters. And Kenny, you can give away your 400 stars that you just gave to us. Thank you so much, Kenny. However you want. He says, thanks for supporting us at K&K, fellas. Well, thank you, Kenny, man. You don't need to, but I appreciate it. And Ronk and Mr. Patrick Wiltsey is certainly going to like it as well. So thank you so much, buddy. Appreciate it. I alluded to it. I'll get to a few more comments here in just a second, but I do want to get your thoughts, man. This running game is one thing that we'll need to get going. One of the things that we'll need to have happen. But Jody, what else needs to happen in the passing game in order for this to work?
Troy Franklin and Bo Nix need to connect on these deep shots. They have not connected all year. It needs to happen. Either drops by Franklin or overthrows, underthrows from Nix. I hope that is something that they worked on in these 10 days. If it's not Nix, Mims. I mean, if he just makes a good throw to Mims versus the Chargers, that's an easy walk-in touchdown. I think that would help a lot of things. It would get the safeties back for one, clear them out of the middle, it would open up the running game, less guys in the box. It'd do a lot of things. They've been close on it all year. Maybe hopefully this is the game where they finally get that connection.
Yeah. There's lots of opportunities. Honestly, for me, Jody, this has got to be one of those games where we actually do spread around the ball. I love the passion that Sutton is bringing, but I do need this ball to go a lot of different places, in my opinion, man. We need to be able to have Troy Franklin involved. We need to have Marvin Mims involved. I would love to see, it be tight end week again or National Tight End Day again, and see a little bit more production from that, like we saw in that game, because that was amazing what we saw happen in that game from the tight end production. This, again, getting a well-rounded offense, whether it be running game, whether it be multiple receivers, whether it be everyone involved, it might have to be an all hands on deck. and these receivers need to be part of it. They cannot let this team down. Even Cortland Sutton said, "Hey, we didn't go in as focused, I think, as we needed to be in that last game. We don't do that again." They are focused and ready, man. I'm excited for what, especially that wide receiver room is going to bring to the table, because I think Cortland Sutton, being a captain, being a leader, being a veteran, and the type of mentality he's bringing into this game, I'm excited, man.
Oh, I agree. I don't think the Bengals have average, players in the secondary, and it is something you can take advantage of that, again, will open up the run game. What you're going to need in the playoffs, because you're going to go into cold weather. You're going to go to Buffalo. You're going to go to Baltimore. You're going to go to Pittsburgh. You're going to go to one of those three places probably if you make the playoffs, to open it up. So find the run game now, and do other things that can open up the run game other than just you got to and get creative with it, not just hand the ball off up the middle. He's got to be creative with it as well.
Yeah, I agreed. I think that, kind of rewinding, I guess the most creative part that I see in this game is probably going to be more on defense. But you're right. Honestly, the most creative thing that we might have going in this game is on the offensive side is sticking to a run game, in my opinion, Jody. That might be the most creative thing that Sean Payton could actually do when it comes to this game plan, because it's something that no one is going to expect. In fact, one Mr. Dan Wickett right on time says, "Don't expect a running game this Saturday whatsoever. Straight 50 attempts by Bo Nix." Jody, I know that we're talking the what ifs, the what should be's. We're lining up our players. We're telling Sean Payton, Vance Joseph, everybody exactly how they should be playing this game in our opinions. Do you think it plays out that way? Do you think Dan is right, or do you think that we actually get it on track? If I know that what we want, but do you think Dan is right? Do you think that we see straight up 50 attempts from Bo Nix in this game?
I don't know about 50, but until I see Peyton for 4 quarters commit to the run and run it smart, like, for example, when it's 2nd and the next 2 plays are passes, when you're running the ball, when you've had effective runs, I don't see it. Peyton's going to have to show me otherwise. He hasn't committed to it all year. I don't know. I mean, if the Chargers game, when it's working, isn't proof that he doesn't care about it, then I don't know what is. And until I see that he will 100% commit to it for 4 quarters and commit to it smartly, and when it's the right time to run the ball, and I don't care if it's Williams, I don't care who it is. If someone gets hot back there, feed that running back and allow him to run the ball. I don't see it, but I will continue to hope and pound the table.
That's what we're here for sometimes, man. We're here for answers. We're here for hope. We're here for what we think would be the best outcome. And we hope that maybe not that anybody's listening, but maybe we see it, man. Maybe we see that commitment to the run game. Maybe we see the outcome from the run game that we want, man. We need 100+ yard rusher in a game at some point, Jody.
And I don't even really, I mean, I would love 100-yard rusher. I don't even really so much care about that. I want one guy to go get 20+ carries. And if at the end of the day, estimate has 20 carries for 85 yards and they're effective yards, and you committed to the run along with, say, a sprinkling of 5 to 6 from other guys, and you hit 100 between everyone, I'm fine with that. But show teams that you are willing to commit to it. And I don't need 150. I would love it, but that's not what I really need. I need just a commitment to it.
I guess where I'm getting at, man, is if we have a commitment to it and we get 85 yards this game and we get 72 yards the next game, we get 97 on that game, guess what? At some point we get 101, 102 yards and we finally get that 100-yard rusher, man. I'm not talking some guy's got to go off and he's got to be, the next coming and put up 177 yards, in a game or anything like that. It's not what I'm asking for, man. I'm asking for the same thing you are, man. I think it's the same thing that Broncos country is looking for. A commitment to it. Keep pounding it. Make sure that you're doing it week after week. Find your guy, and you'll have a 100-yard rusher at some point. I don't know if it's going to be this season with going into the playoffs and how tough that is and how many fewer possessions it seems like you get in the playoffs. It makes it a lot tougher. But, man, don't get away from it. Don't get away from it. I got to get in here. I got to get final call because this is our last episode that we're going to be marketing or talking about this PS2 signed jersey that we're giving away. This is in part because of Bighorn Autographs, because they're the ones who supplied it to us, or supplied it once, gave them the correct amount of money. But we appreciate Bighorn Autographs for having a PS2 signed jersey to give away. By the way, in case you're wondering, yes, that is PSA certified. And they are going to soon have Nick Benito stuff. So that's going to be pretty cool too. But last call, RMSN wins. In the comments, follow us either on Facebook or YouTube, however you're tuning in. That's an entry. And if you happen to drop 100 stars over on Facebook, for every 100 stars, you get 3 entries. It's the last time I'm going to say it. It is in the ticker down below. If you sit there and continue to watch it, it'll tell you all the instructions there as well. But we got to make sure that we give it away to one of our amazing, amazing posse members, one of those that are tuning in. We got some new subscribers that are coming in, even like Bengals fans saying, honestly, I'm surprised Bengals are favored in this game. How are they favored? We got the Bengals fan coming in here on YouTube, 619 Bengals fan, wondering how they're favored, man. Jody, this is a great way to maybe talk about this matchup and how tight it could be when, we're hoping for the win and Bengals fans are kind of saying, we're hoping for a win. How can they be favored? Why would they be favored in this game? What do we got to watch out for, bud?
I think 1, because it's in Cincinnati. 2, it's the way their O has been, cooking all year. And 3, it's the way Denver's defense the last, 3-4 games since Riley Moss has been out has looked really bad. I mean, I heard today that they were the 31st ranked defense in the month of December. It's not been good. Gave up over 200 receiving yards to Jerry Jeudy, almost 500 pass yards to Jameis Winston. You let Justin Herbert throw all over you and run on you. And the same with the Colts. I mean, I seen Anthony Richardson in the beginning do stuff to this D until he just got flustered and, made bad plays. But I think that's the main reason. And, Nix has 5 interceptions in the last 3 games. They said he had like 3, his total air yards or his air yards per pass attempt last week was like 3, like the lowest in the NFL per any game all year. It's just they haven't been clicking right, and I hope that Sean Payton knew what he was doing. Hopefully he was playing chess when everyone was playing checkers when he moved that game up and gave Denver an extra, 3 days to prepare for the Bengals. Hopefully that was the grand plan, and hopefully it works out.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Man, I'm telling you what, buddy, this has been a crazy episode. I'll be honest, I probably wasn't tuned into as much as what you were saying as I was trying to get in all these comments. Sorry, buddy. So, Paul Schaefer's coming in. He's saying RMSN wins as well, making sure that he gets entered in to the contest. I'm getting them all written down. I do try to go back and make sure that I got all these right. And yeah, subscribe, Bengals fan. And Graham, he's the only part of the K&K Sports Show I necessarily haven't seen that usually come in and is part of the show. So, Ernie, I know that sometimes it seems like only the rich get richer, and you know, the big prizes only go to those. But I'm hoping everybody has a chance to come in here and get an entry and get a win. It only takes one. Keep in mind, I do have a couple other pieces that we are giving away. There'll be a total of 3 drawings, 3 names drawn in this drawing. Second or third prize, however you look at it, I do have this 2023 signed training camp memorabilia piece. DJ Jones is on there. Alex Forsyth is on there. There's about 6 to 8 names, I would say, on there in total. And then we do have an Elway figurine that we're giving away. There's a nice little starting lineup, 1998 edition. John Elway, he's got his towel, he's got his helmet, he's got his football, and I'd love to send one of those out. So not just one winner, but actually 3. The main piece, obviously, being that that PS2 signed jersey. I'll be honest, guys. You guys have supported us so well in this jersey giveaway. We might be able to be doing this a little bit more often if you guys continue to support us this way. I can't wait for it. Who knows? Maybe it's something else, because I've heard a few people saying, "Hey, we want something else." So I want a bow t-shirt, says Pearl. So who knows? Who knows? And we have Elway bobbleheads as well in there. So we do need to get it out of here, buddy. We're right up against the clock. We need to get some final thoughts in. I'd love to get a few more entries in from anybody out there. Heck, maybe even a Bengals fan, though. Man, that would be rough, giving away a Broncos jersey to a Bengals fan. We need to go ahead and we need to get out of here. But I want to get some final thoughts for you, man. I want to get some final thoughts from you. This game, this matchup, and what we need to do to walk away the win, man.
I think this is a game that both VJ and Sean Payton, are planning for, or prep for. The extra days are going to help. You're paying Sean Payton $20 million for a reason, and I think this is you get a full 4 quarters from both sides of the ball, and I think you see a dominant win here, and put to bed is Casey going to rest players? Is Mahomes going to play next week? Is it worth getting in the playoffs if we get in the playoffs and make some noise? The AFC's wide open, in my opinion. You can beat any team if you play like you're capable of. And I think Denver wins this game 31-17. And it's dominant on both sides of the ball. And they put to bed a lot of the narratives of, is VJ washed? And a lot of the bad narratives of this team. Did Sean Payton forget how to, call a great game for 4 quarters? All that gets put to bed.
I like it, man. And I'm glad that you dropped that prediction in, because I forgot this is the preview and predictions show, man. So please, everybody, go ahead, drop your final score predictions in. We'll stay a few minutes later because we only got 20 seconds late if we were getting out of here on time, or 20 seconds left if we're getting out of here on time. So I do want to get that. I also got to get Michael Ronquillo. One of the other podcasts says he's the sunrise sunset, because he comes in here and opens and closes a show like no other, dropping another 1,000 stars. Mr. Michael Ronquillo, thank you very much for the support. Of course, we'll go ahead and we'll get your entries in on this drawing as well. We'll probably be doing that again on Tuesday. We'll just have a brief post-game show. We go live right after the game. I know that my good friend Trevor will be back for that, but hopefully we have all 4 horsemen. We love it when we can do that. But nonetheless, go ahead, tune in, chime in, make sure you're liking, sharing, subscribing, so that you know exactly when we go live. You don't want to miss us. Jody, You're right, man. This is going to be a game that we should go out there and we should dominate. And I think we do. I think it's a closer game in the end. But this is a game that I think has been building up in the mind of Sean Payton for quite some time. I think that he really tried to arrange to make sure that he was prepped and planned for this week with this extra break that he was trying to give himself prior to the Bengals with the way that he agreed to rearrange the schedule. I think that this team is focused. I think that we got Riley Moss back, and that's huge for this defense. I think that if we're going to get it done, it needs to happen now, and we need to start, getting some wins and some wind beneath our sails as we head into the playoffs, if that's what we're going to do. I don't want to back in, like you said. We can't. I don't want to be losing the last 3 games and miraculously we're in, because that doesn't give me any confidence. We need to start putting together some wins, and it starts this Saturday, Jody. I think that it's a late comeback by the Bengals, but I think it's a 21-16 win by the Denver Broncos. I think we get out early, we hold that lead, and a couple of late field goals make it feel like it's a closer game by the Bengals, but it's going to be pretty much a 21-10 game for most of the game, and sneaks in there, makes it look a little bit better than it is. So that's my final score prediction. Kenny saying, Kirkpatrick says, if it's raining like the Jets game, Broncos lose 20-13. Boo, Kenny, come on. Give us a little bit of love, man. After all 400 stars and the whole 9 yards, you're killing me, brother. Clayton's coming in 28-10 for the Broncos. Pearl's coming in and messing up everyone's playoff race with a 21-21 tie, and try to start figuring out and calculating the math once the Bengals and the Broncos tie. That'll be great.
Oh, a tie gets Denver in.
Is that what it is? Okay,
Yep.
Very good. I look at that's why we call him the judge, man. He's got all lined up, ready to come in, make his judgment. He already knows what the rules are, man. The tie gets us in. 38-24 Broncos, says one Paul Schaefer. And yes, we'll be going post game tomorrow. I got it all lined up there, buddy. Dan's coming in. Broncos 30, Cincinnati 20. I can only hope. Michael Ronquillo coming in with his score prediction, 24-20. Broncos win over the Bengals. Any last ones before we get out of here? 11-7. Oh, 11-7. That's probably our win-loss record. I love that. 11-6 is even better, because 11-7 is, well, getting a little ahead of the cart there. Maybe a year or two. Scott's coming in and saying the Broncos 24, the Kitty Cats 20. Karen coming in, Broncos 30-27 for the Patriots. For the Bengals, or reverse and we lose. We won 24-23 on Darren's last game against Cincinnati on 12/31/2006. And she did point that out a little while ago, maybe came in the comments a little harsh for some. Just remembering that Darren Williams passed away not that long ago. Well, not that long ago as far as the date, but back in 2006. And of course, we always want to remember him. Cut too short, man. Would have loved to seen a lot more Darren Williams. So Kenny says, if it isn't raining, I said 24-21. So let's hope for the rain, Kenny. I didn't mean to put you on the spot. Love you, buddy. Love all of these fantastic posse members that have come in and just lit up our comments. All of those who typed in RMSN wins and got entered into our comments. All those who dropped additional stars. We love and appreciate you. Again, it's because of you guys too that will probably make this a little bit more possible on a little bit more routine basis. Again, appreciate all the love and support, and just not just in this contest, guys and gals. Man, I tell you what, the love and support that has got us here to what we're doing and being able to give away and have stars and have this great following and all these eyes as we've watched all your viewership throughout this podcast and throughout many podcasts, man. We appreciate you a ton. We appreciate Pearl Heater and her fantastic Morgan Trinkets. Check out Morgan Trinkets Co. on Etsy. Don't forget about that. And yeah, we got to get out of here. We went a little bit over. That we will be going live right after the game tomorrow, after the Broncos get the win, right? Broncos country. Go ahead, jump in, make sure you're part of that show as well. We can't wait to have you there. So that being said, got to get out of here. We'll do it the way we always do, man. Make sure you keep those boots in the stirrups, guns in the holsters, and of course, the Denver Broncos in your heart. Until next episode, can't wait to see you, Broncos country. Let's go out there and get that win. We'll see you. Have a great night, everybody. Talk to you on Saturday.